guys, Robbie Calvo here. Today I'm talking to you about the Line 6 Helix floor unit that I'm using for my recording sessions now. And I'm also going to give you a lesson on phrasing and how you can improve your guitar phrases as a lead guitar player. And of course I'm going to give you that backing track that you heard at the beginning of the video at the end of this video so you can jam along to it as well, using some of the ideas plus the preset that I recorded into the Helix unit. I'm going to upload that to Line 6 and you guys will be able to download that and put that into your own Helix units. Now let's talk about how I routed the system first. Basically I put my guitar straight into Helix and then took two XLR outputs into a preamp and then into my Logic. So there was no other outboard effects, no other amps or anything else. Everything came from the Helix unit and all I was doing was just boosting through a preamp into the system. And you don't need the preamp, I just liked it, it warmed up the sound a tiny bit. Okay. Now the way I'm thinking about Helix for my sessions is keeping it really simple. I think about it as a pedal board, an amplifier and effects, alright, and how that goes into the recording system. So I'm running it in stereo and I'm thinking, okay, I'm always going to use a compressor, an overdrive, and they're going in mono into an amplifier that I choose, an amp head. Then I choose a speaker cabinet and then delay and some reverb. Alright, now I'm going to use that setup pretty much any time I'm playing in the studio, and I may vary various effects, but that's pretty much what I would use. So I've set that template up that then I can tweak as I'm recording and I can vary those sounds. So basically I've got a compressor running into the overdrive, and then I chose the Essex and the matchless amplifier. I believe it was the Essex for the rhythm guitar parts and the matchless I used for those lead guitar parts. And then I used a 2x12 enclosure that ran into that, and then I'm using delay and some reverb as well. And that's basically how I'm using it. Now obviously I'm using the floor unit, but I haven't got it on the floor, I've got it on my desktop. Because as I'm recording into Logic, I'm listening and I'm going, okay, I might need a bit more delay, or I might need to add a tiny bit of overdrive to the amp setting, or I'm going to move the ribbon microphone maybe another inch back off the speaker so that it sounds slightly different and has a bit more room on it. Okay, so I'm thinking in terms of that as a studio musician, where I can tweak it on my desktop, run it into Logic, record it, and then if I'm hearing something that's not quite right, I can go back and just tweak it, all right? And then I save that preset. And of course, I've saved it and I will upload that to the Line 6 editor as well. So I'm thinking in terms of that for studio session work. And of course, if I went to a gig, I would put it on the floor and I'd have different settings for that, okay? So that's how I'm using Line 6 Helix. Now let's go over and look at some phrasing ideas for you guys so you can jam over this backing track, and I'll show you what I did on that intro solo for you. Okay, so let's talk about the phrasing aspect of the solo that you heard at the beginning of this video. Now phrasing to me is your personal voice on the instrument, or your rhythmic placement of the melodies within the measure of music or the pocket or groove. Now of course we can place our melodies anywhere within the bar, and if we shift those melodies across the bar, that's called rhythmic displacement. And I use that a lot in my phrasing. And I think a great place to start phrases sometimes is on the end of 2 or the upbeat of 2. And it just gives you a different effect of how that melody or that lick feels against the music. And of course you can try that on the backing track that I'm giving you at the end of this video. So on the approach for this solo that I played, I was playing on the and of 2 for the first 3 phrases, alright? Now, to give you another idea as well, I'm also using a technique I like to call 3+1. Now let me qualify that to you. The first phrase, I'm playing a melodic and rhythmic hook, and it's kind of a 2-bar phrase. Then my second 2-bar phrase is a very similar thing, but goes slightly to a different place at the end of it. And then my third 2-bar phrase is very similar again, ends slightly differently again. And then my +1, my fourth phrase, is my crescendo line, and I do something totally different, alright? But first let's take a look at the chords. So the chords I was playing over was a G, to an A, and that's the 4 chord and the 5 chord in the key of D. So I'm playing the D major scale over those 2 chords, but the resolution point is back to my G chord. And here's the chords. So that's basically how I'm playing over this progression, and you hear me adding in the D chord at the end, kind of a sus kind of thing over the A. Now they're the 2 chords, it doesn't go anywhere else, and we can use the D major scale or B minor pentatonic or D major pentatonic over this progression beautifully. And it doesn't matter, guys, what you choose to use, it's about the ideas and what you would say and your personal voice over the progression. All right, I'm just giving you some ideas. So now let's take a look at the phrases and what I mean by the 3+1 and the rhythmic displacement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to count you in so you hear where the first phrase starts. All right, so 1, 2. Okay, and you hear me playing, starting my phrase on the end of 2. 1, 2. Right, and I'm using the D major scale in position here at the 7th fret. Now that was my first phrase, and I thought, well, okay, so what you do is repetition is good. So I did the phrase again for my second line, 1, 2, and then I took it somewhere else. Okay, and ended on the D. My third 2-bar phrase, similar thing again, 1, 2. Okay, so I played a rhythmic figure at the end, and then on my 4th phrase, my +1, I played up the scale of the D major scale. Alright, so my 4th phrase was totally different from the other 3. So I call that 3+1. And I think it's a really great way of structuring solos where you're not just blowing lines and don't have any intent towards a musical target. And I think if you play repetitious phrases, you have intent and a target that you're going for, because you go, okay, here's the first one. Same thing, slightly different. Same thing again, slightly different. And then a crescendo line that maybe takes you up the scale, or you know, dynamically is going from lower to higher to give you a crescendo. So there's a couple of ideas for you. Of course, the backing track's at the end of this video, and you can play over that as much as you like to. And don't worry about learning what I'm playing. It's not about that. It's about your personal approach, your personal voice on the instrument. So choose the notes that you want to play and think in terms of phrasing. Now you could play your phrases on the end of 3 or the downbeat of 1. I'm just giving you some ideas that maybe give you some flavors, if you like, or some options. Alright, so hopefully that helps you. And of course, if you want to, you can download the sound. I will be uploading that soon to line 6, so you can use that in your Helix unit as well. And jam over the track as much as you like. Please check out robbiecalvo.com, robbiecalvolive.com. And also my TrueFire videos, which you can also purchase and watch free content on YouTube as well. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/RobbieCalvoGuitar. And would love to see you on there. And please place some comments if you want to at the bottom of the video. And I'll be talking to you again soon with some more video content.